Hi, beautiful ladies. Today I want to talk about something that does not get enough attention, and that's perimenopause. And 10 tips that I wish I knew before I went through perimenopause. So if you're in your 30s or early 40s, you should listen in because this is something that will affect you very soon. So let's dive in. So I'm Dr. Jen, and if you love this content about midlife and how to thrive in midlife, please subscribe and share with your friends, both men and women, because honestly, this affects everyone. And so it's important that we share education with other people and that, we can help other women as well. So let's talk about the 10 tips I wish I knew before I started perimenopause. So number one, probably going to be very unpopular, but honestly, alcohol can be very disruptive to sleep. So you might have in your 30s been able to have a couple of drinks, sleep through the night, no problems, maybe wake up because you had to go pee. But unfortunately, when you get into your 40s and mid 40s, then when perimenopause, those changes that happen to your hormones can cause a negative impact with alcohol. So cortisol can want to wake you up in the middle of the night and honestly keep your brain kind of active. And so you don't really even get restful sleep to begin with. And there's honestly a lot of good data now that shows that alcohol consumption, if you stop drinking alcohol, you can actually reduce your risk for breast cancer and even colon cancer. So alcohol, believe it or not, can be very disruptive to sleep, but actually maybe even harmful in some ways. That stuff is still being worked out. And honestly, in the next couple of years, we'll probably find out its true impact on cancer. So alcohol, decreasing the amount you actually have would be a great tip. Number two, track your cycles. So when I was younger, I didn't pay a lot of attention to my period. I just knew it came when it came. But honestly, tracking your cycles, and especially if you're writing down symptoms like having a hard time sleeping, or your mood is changed, or maybe your libido is changed, and trying to correlate what's happening with your cycle will give you such good, valuable information for your doctor to help you find the right menopause hormone therapy plan. And so it's important to start tracking your cycles. There's great apps nowadays to be able to track them. In fact, In the Flow is a great app I've told patients about, but there are a lot of them to be able to show when are you having your period, how often, how heavy, and then are there any symptoms associated with it so that you can talk to your doctor. Number three, brain fog is real. Seriously, some women even notice this as one of their very first perimenopause symptoms. They find that they're having a hard time recalling things like, why did I go in this room? What was my neighbor's name? What is that kid in high school that I went to prom with? Things like that are honestly, this happens as those estrogen levels decline. And so brain fog can be very real and can have an impact on women in their job or even with their relationships. So it's important to recognize that this is actually a sign of perimenopause. Number four, and this is the one I think you'll be surprised about. Sleep is a superpower. When you're young, you often don't prioritize sleep, but honestly, when you get into perimenopause, you have to pay attention to sleep. Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time helps a lot with managing your hormones, but also lowering cortisol, which can be a great disruptor for all of your other hormones. So if you're not getting adequate sleep, pretty much it's a roller coaster ride for the other hormones. So it's important to prioritize sleep. Number five, vitamin D is your BFF. So vitamin D does a lot of wonderful things. It's not just about your immune system. It's not just about keeping you healthy and keeping you from getting sick. There's even good data looking at vitamin D levels that are adequate to prevent breast cancer and recurrence of breast cancer. So it's really important that you're getting vitamin D. I will tell you that in my functional integrative medicine world, we use a different level than the standard Western medicine guidelines. We try to optimize vitamin D, 60 to 80, your vitamin D level. Oftentimes in Western medicine, they go by, the Quest Diagnostic Lab reference level, which is the minimum is 18, which I think is too low. I think a minimum of 40 if you're using sort of Western medicine guidelines. And if you're using functional medicine and integrative medicine guidelines, we tend to stick to around 60 to 80. Vitamin D is a toxic vitamin, so you don't want to overdo it. You definitely want to be monitored. You can get it through food, and for sure, it's a great source. I'm always a fan of saying food first over supplements. But if you can't, then supplementation is possible. And remember, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it's better to take with food or around food. So make sure you're taking your vitamins at the right time because they don't really work as well if you're not actually optimizing their absorption. Okay, back to our 10 tips. So number 6, gut health is everything. Seriously, guess what? Your gut health actually affects your sex life. I bet you nobody knew that. So your gut health affects how you make your hormones, if they get metabolized correctly. And if you're not making enough hormones and you're not getting them metabolized correctly, you're not going to have good testosterone for libido. You're not going to have good estrogen to prevent hot flashes. So your gut is everything. Paying attention to your gut health, making sure you're getting fiber. Fiber is queen. I know people say fiber is king, but fiber is queen because we're ladies. And making sure you're getting like a probiotic or good bacteria in the gut. In fact, a lot of people will just focus on having foods that are sort of gut friendly, that have prebiotic and probiotic qualities, but making sure you pay attention to your gut, super important. Number 7. So I used to focus a lot on cardio when I was younger because, you know, we all grew up in the 80s and 90s where there was just aerobic videos on everything that we did. But you honestly need a combination of cardio and resistance training. And if you don't even have the time or it's too much to even think about, to be honest, just moving your body is important. That's something I did not recognize when I was younger, that I always thought I had to have enough time to go run 5 miles, but to be honest, moving your body, however it makes sense for you, is really important. Even if it's a 20-minute walk after food, or, you know, going to play pickleball with friends, moving your body. Exercise is seriously the best longevity drug that there is. So moving your body every single day. Stress management is not optional. This is kind of one of those things that women will often think is kind of hocus pocus and not important. And everybody says reduce their stress, but it is critical. Cortisol is a hormone that tends to rise because we lose our sex hormones. And cortisol is our fight or flight hormone. And honestly, stress will make this way worse. So if you don't have a stress management plan, and it doesn't have to be complicated, to be honest. Some people just go for walks, they journal, they color, they listen to a meditation app, they meditate. Whatever technique works for you, you need to start doing that even in your 30s to start having a great plan that's really what you enjoy and something that'll keep your stress down low. Number 9, feeling nothing down there is not normal. So I see patients every single day who tell me that they lack libido and they feel like things are just numb down below. And honestly, and I would say words, but I know in YouTube they may censor me and not be able to use the correct anatomical terms, but you know what I'm talking about. And so women who feel like they just have lack of sensation and that they lack libido, no interest and no desire, while that's normal because you're aging, is not normal. And there are things that you can do about it. Don't give up. Don't let providers or friends tell you that that's just part of aging. There are options for you, and that it can be that it's not normal for you. And that's something that I think we need to talk more about. There needs to be more education on sexual health in perimenopause. I think the scales are not equal between men and women in that arena. And honestly, I love to see some better drugs in the market that helped with HSDD. Number 10, lastly, and most importantly, advocate for yourself. So we're in a very unusual time in that, you know, women are starting to wake up and realize that there are options for them in perimenopause for treatment. But we still have providers that are really behind the times. And that's because we really had this poor education from the Women's Health Initiative study. It really decreased the amount of doctors that got educated in menopause care, are comfortable with hormone replacement therapy. And so you have to advocate for yourself. You have to find the right partner, whatever provider that is, to partner with so that your needs can be met, you can be heard, because you were really your own doctor, and you really need to find someone that will partner with you to reach your goals. So advocate for yourself. I hope this video was helpful. These 10 perimenopause tips to help you navigate perimenopause a little bit easier than I did. If you guys have particular questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section, and I would love to make future videos on any of these topics.